Cold air domination is on its way for much of the United States, but in particular, we're going to be looking at two big old troughs that are in place for much of today, Thursday, and they're really going to be in play for much of the rest of the week into the weekend, maybe even next week as well. So today we're going to be looking at how these troughs are going to be affecting really the entire eastern half of the United States, regions such as the southern Great Plains, Texas. Also, how this will be affecting the Midwest and even areas in the Northeast. So let's get into this forecast. Let's look at what's really going on, and let's look at the meteorology of it. So initialization here, I'm using the 15Z wrap. This is technically 2 hours old. However, it's the most recent run I can get, and it is based on real data and fairly accurate as well. So you can see here a pretty well-defined trough. You can see this vorticity, the cyclone right there. Other things to note, maybe this little bit of ridging over here in regions such as Louisiana. This does actually affect regions up here and maybe even to the Midwest as well. A little bit of a ridging pattern all the way, but not much of a pattern, just a ridging feature right there, and even a secondary trough up there. So you can see that not surface, so this cyclone here really continues to dig, but doesn't really move off to the east. It just kind of really just weakens considerably over time here. There's this a little bit of a cold front that stagnates, or just isn't able to move on to the rest of the trough, and eventually gets cut off. Really, you can see that a strange wind look right there, and then eventually all that is cut off. If we look forward with time here as well, and NAM model shows a very similar thing, but afterwards you can see yet another trough beginning to build in over kind of the northwest U.S. here, right up here. Again, that trough will also bring a good amount of winter weather. Let's look at the temperature. Temperature aloft, fairly cold, pretty cold temperatures there. This other trough, again, also very cold, especially considering what the normal 5-inch millibar temperatures are in regions such as, Texas. Let's look at the GFS standard temperature anomalies. You can see how much, how colder this is than normal. So much colder air is in place over regions here, and that is going to be leading to that winter precipitation we'll talk about in a little bit. Lastly, again, when we're talking about the surface map is important. We're going to have this surface low that forms kind of off the Gulf Coast of Texas and really begins to kind of shoot up, maybe even becoming a nor'easter if conditions are right, but most likely it will not actually have that path up the eastern coast. However, it does have some characteristics of nor'easters. Again, we'll look at that in a second. And associated with that secondary trough, you can see right here another surface low will be able to bring itself down, kind of Alberta Clipper style. You can see on the backside of that just a lot of very cold air coming into the U.S. And if we look at our ensemble forecast here, you'll see that our models begin to disagree right around here. So let's look at how the GFS run has that kind of cutoff low and troughing over in this region. So wide scale troughing over much of the northeastern half of the area of the United States, and kind of that ridging pattern over the central areas. So now let's look at specific areas of the United States. The first one I want to look at is going to be the southern Great Plains, regions such as Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. We do have this very real risk for winter weather. So let's look at our precipitation type. And you can see down here we have this surface low. Warmer air is going to be surrounding most of this region, most of the surface low. Not warmer air, but it won't be freezing temperatures that will be close to that surface low. And look at our dew point. We have a lot of moisture here as well, relative humidities as well. Just lots of moisture over much of this region. Let's actually look at the rat model here again. Just so much moisture keeps itself in this area, and that will really help to form a lot of precipitation. In particular, again, you can see kind of a mixed areas of precipitation, a little bit of freezing rain possibilities in regions western Arkansas, but nothing extremely strong, nothing like we saw in Evansville or Missouri, this region we saw last week. Nothing like that. We are going to have a good amount of snowfall, and that is very not normal for regions such as Oklahoma and Texas. That's the main concern as well. Let's look at the surface map right now, actually. And here is our current data. We have lots of snowfall over many regions here. Here's Oklahoma, lots of snow, really everywhere there. Regions in northern Texas, the Panhandle, even some regions in New Mexico as well. You can also see down here a good amount of rain is already falling in southern Texas, southern central Texas. And we have some different winter precipitation types in some of these other stations as well. And you can see on our satellite, plenty of precipitation is already falling. So that's the real issue, is going to be all this snowfall. Let's look at our totals. Here's total snow accumulation via the RAP model. Let's go to 15Z. You see good amounts of snowfall. Arkansas getting hit the heaviest, but regions in Texas definitely getting hit. Oklahoma here, and again, I might even already take this a little bit with a grain of salt, because you can already see we have snowfall in regions over here as well, and the RAP model is already not. It's kind of missing that section of snowfall, so they might get much heavier amounts in regions here. I'm looking at 6 hours to see if we have any blizzard conditions. If you're going to see blizzard conditions anywhere, it's going to be here in Arkansas. That's going to be Friday morning. A good amount of snowfall very quickly, and blizzard conditions in regions here, but very heavy snowfall. Anything above 3 inches is already very hazardous. And then snowfall over, again, much of this region as we move off to the southeast. So then afterwards, we talked about our big troughs. We're going to have another one that comes in. Let's go to the NAM model here. We have another trough that moves in, and this is going to bring yet another surface low, much more north, however, but this will bring some warm air advection into regions in Texas. It won't be nearly as cold, but then afterwards, you're going to get a pretty long cold front going through, which should bring some colder temperatures again afterwards. Regarding the southeast, again, we talked about that snowfall possibilities. Regions in Arkansas. Actually, the GFS has a lot more snowfall falling, which is unique. If we compare that to our RAP model, and actually, RAP model does show quite a lot there. NAM model even shows even more, actually. I was only a 6-hour snowfall. I did forget to mention the total snow accumulation. Looking at this RAP model here, see over much of this region here, very heavy rates, especially near that middle Arkansas region, upwards of at least 8 inches. Oh, it's even showing 12 inches, so a foot of snow in Arkansas there. That's very heavy amounts. If you look in the southeast as well, again, mostly rain from you guys, but you are going to see that possibility of some snowfall if you're more in the northern areas, such as Tennessee. Again, the NAM model here is wanting to show a lot of freezing rain falling, actually. So this is something I want to note. The NAM model is showing a lot much more freezing temperatures getting south. But based on current data, this is not really happening. So if we look at a RAP run, it's kind of an outlier. The NAM is an outlier here. Let's check out the freezing rain accumulations. Much less here in the GFS, although actually the NAM and the GFS do kind of agree in this regard. It's possible the RAP model is actually our outlier and is not, and considering the fact that actually we had that little bit of a hole in western Texas, it's very possible that the RAP model is not showing the freezing temperatures really getting nearly as south as they will be. So there is this possibility for this freezing rain. I initially wanted to disregard it, however, the GFS run also showing this. I don't believe the Euro shows freezing rain on here. Here's our NAM nest, which might give a little better what's really going on here. Pretty widespread freezing rain possibilities, not extremely severe, however, widespread 0.2 inches are they're enough. They're enough to really, especially in regions here. Some regions seeing 0.4 inches. Northern Georgia even showing some 0.8, but it is pretty far out from initialization at that point. But that big barrage of possible freezing rain, definitely a big issue for roads. So that's something to look out for as well if you're in the southeast. And again, in both regions here, if you're going forward in time, it's just going to be cold air dominance. Here's our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook for much of the U.S., and that is a little bit out of our forecast range. However, cold temperatures are on their way. We talked about that with the troughing features. That's just going to bring in more air from Canada than anything. It's going to be pretty cold in regions down here especially. So cold air is going to dominate much of the weather pattern for the southern U.S. and as a whole. Looking at the Midwest now, let's look at our initialization one more time. The RAP run here. Very cold. I mean, yeah, very cold today. But we're going to have that troughing feature we talked about. Actually, we're way back in time here. We're going to have that troughing feature we talked about right here. A little bit of that trough impacted from up here, but that surface low is more so down here. The thing is, however, that some of this snowfall actually moved north just based on the 500 millibar flow. The 500 millibar flow is actually very southwesterly, so you're going to get some of that snowfall possible over regions in Illinois, Indiana. Not super heavy, but there is that possibility of some snowfall. Pretty minor, I will admit. looking at our 6-hour totals, maybe some flurries, but nothing incredible. Um, More of the snowfall will be in southern Indiana, maybe regions of Ohio, but not really the typical area you'd expect it near the Great Lakes there. Although you might see some lake effect snowfall associated with this trough in regions such as Michigan. Then afterwards, we're going to be looking at, again, we talked about that big trough following the secondary, here's a second trough there. And this will also be forming another surface low. And this will likely bring a little bit more snowfall. So if we look at our precipitation types here, again, good amount of snowfall over much of the region, more so lake effect bands off Michigan there. For just 6-hour totals, actually less significant, which is quite impressive, but you do have that secondary timing of snowfall here as well. Likely just because there isn't really, you're not on that northern side of this low, you're on the southern side, and that's not usually where you see that snowfall. Not that very heavy snowfall, at least. But plenty of moisture here, so you could get those lake effect bands if you are in Michigan. That's something to be looking out for. Lastly, I want to look at the northeast. The main thing to look at is going to be that the surface low we talked about currently causing snow in Texas. So let's go back out and look at how this low here kind of zips up the coastline right at the end of its life cycle. Again, this is associated with this trough, a little bit more of a southerly component here. We have some southerly components, and that will help to steer that trough just a little bit north at the end of its life cycle. That could lead to some snow up there, and precipitation type. I love this product, but you can see some of the heavier totals, maybe near the coastline there. Let's look at our 6-hour totals. This is on the NAM, which has been a little bit more extreme. I believe the wrap model is more calm with it, but the NAM model does have some pretty heavy snowfall. And relatively, not blizzard conditions, but nearing that point for New Hampshire possibly. The GFS run, again, a little more tame with it. It's very possible the NAM is a little bit of an outlier. There is that possibility of snowfall making it up here into these regions, just with that surface low, could bring some of those. If it's strong enough, it could bring some snowfall into regions here, but nothing crazy. It looks like, again, yeah, nothing too wild here. Just some bands here, maybe some lake effect off of Lake Ontario or Lake Erie, but nothing crazy other than that. And then as time goes on, again, we talked about cold air is going to dominate as we move forward. You can see here the northeast is going to be up and under a lot of troughing over time. There's lots of troughing, and that trough we talked about for the Midwest, that surface low, that will likely be impacting the Northeast as well. And not much again, but you might see some of that snowfall in regions here. And we talked mostly about lake effect, but just some sprinkles here. That's 6-hour accumulation on GFS, and nothing too extreme in regions here. So, but the main thing to really pay attention to with this forecast is just going to be that it's going to be colder than normal. So let's look at temperature anomalies really quick to end this forecast. Here's our GFS, and this is temperature anomalies. Cold air is just dominating. You have these little warm spikes with these troughs, surface lows, but especially with that clipper there, you're going to get that really big cold blast for regions in the Midwest, but really just the entire U.S. as a whole. It's going to be colder over this eastern half especially. And you can see in our Climate Prediction Center, and they have this below average temperatures over basically the entire lower 48 there. So it will be cold for the upcoming days. So that is something we're going to be looking out for. Again, keep in mind just that fact. And likely also, this only goes out to about 5 days, so there's a very strong possibility that some things could change, but the models are showing quite a lot of troughing. Again, spaghetti model here, there's spaghetti plot, but you can see that this 5520 contours, they're basically all really far south, and that's going to be leading just a lot of colder air affecting its way into the U.S. So that's about it for this forecast. Again, cold air is going to dominate. We talked about that a lot, but cold air is going to dominate. If you're in Texas, or especially Arkansas, do keep your eyes out for that snowfall that's on its way. Just look out for that. It's going to be pretty heavy and pretty unusual. And again, snowfall in regions in the Midwest, just a lot of snow everywhere is really the gist of this forecast. So that's about it for this. Thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. The channel is growing, and I appreciate any help. If you have any feedback, let me know. Still working on these forecasts, especially the snow forecast. It's something I'm a little bit more vague to, but any feedback is appreciated. So with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.